Hi there, my name is Jasmine. This video is the second page of my new channel, new sketchbook series where you decide what I draw while I try to improve my drawing skills and grow my channel. This is a very collaborative series where I take your ideas and suggestions and attempt to memorialize them permanently in the pages of this sketchbook. And we are just getting started, so now is the perfect time to follow along. If there is any imagery, techniques, mediums, or ideas that you would like to see me attempt, let me know in the comments and I will do my best to honor your request in the next page of my sketchbook. So this week is kind of an exciting week for me. I received my first ever suggestion. So Jen Leah 82, you wanted a cat. Well, honey, I'm gonna give you 9. So I hope you have extra kitty, little girl, because it is about to get catty up in here. Okay. But with all that being said, let's get sketching. Now you guys, I wish I could give a really beautiful aesthetic glimpse into the life of an artist. Unfortunately, my drawing setup is just not that. I work out of this tiny little closet of a room. My window actually faces directly into a brick wall, so it's hard for me to get those really beautiful shots. So this is kind of a raw glimpse into my actual drawing station. So every week I feel the need to experiment a little bit, whether that be with materials, composition, the colors I'm using. Even the way I'm editing these videos is something I'm learning about and experimenting on. I'm very new to all of this and there's really a lot to learn. I want to figure out a really dynamic pose for this drawing, so I'm starting with a really loose, impulsive gesture line. Now, for those of you who don't know what a gesture line is, it's basically if you look at a pose or a movement and you try to condense it down to one fluid line. It is a classic figure drawing technique and it really helps you lay a foundation for the rest of the building blocks of the drawing. So you'll see in this drawing I start with that one dynamic line and I'm adding on those structural building blocks until the pose starts making sense to me. With drawing in general, it is a good idea to work general to specific, so don't get too lost in the details too early. The way that I like to think about it is that you have to start with the branches of a tree before you can add the leaves. Now, Jen Leah, girl, I am trying to honor your wish. I am not someone who has a lot of experience drawing cats, but I hope that these do it justice. I'm adding 9 for 9 lives. And with this figure, I'm also thinking about the archetype of the crazy cat lady. Growing up, I was taught to look down on that archetype. You know, she's an outcast, and through a patriarchal lens, it's really just a woman who has failed in her societal duties of marrying a man and producing offspring. Well, human offspring, that is. But the older I get, the more relatable and enviable she really becomes. When you think about this spinster, crazy cat lady, she's a free woman. She's in her own lane and she's not asking permission to live her life the way she wants to. So I wanted to really honor those characteristics. I wanted to make her bold, stylish, unapologetic. Where the trope of a spinster is kind of this invisible, forgotten woman, I want this character to be unforgettable. She's the type of figure that when you see her strutting down the street, she's seared into your frontal cortex for the rest of your life. Now, as I'm working on this drawing, I do have to admit that I'm kind of getting frustrated. One thing that I've not mentioned on this channel is that I have a degenerative eye disease called keratoconus, where over time, my cornea has thinned out more and more and more. It's kind of like an astigmatism if an astigmatism was evolved and even more of a nuisance. And unfortunately, since this is a degenerative disease, it just gets worse and worse with time. So as an artist, this does make drawing extremely difficult. It basically gives me double vision of everything I'm looking at. So it's really hard to tell exactly where my pen is hitting the paper. When I'm not filming, I'm about this close to the paper so that I can see what I'm doing, but that isn't really good for filming unless y'all want to look at the back of my head for 10 minutes. So it's just really hard to tell exactly where I'm making marks on the paper, which can be kind of embarrassing for me. So for this drawing, I'm trying to embrace these mistakes. I'm kind of thinking of fashion illustrations where part of the beauty of those drawings is the looseness and the gesture lines and really seeing the artist's hand. And I hope that comes through in this drawing. Okay, you guys, it's a little bit after 10 p.m. and I think I'm gonna call it quits for tonight. I'm just so freaking sleepy. This is how far we got tonight. I honestly think she's the most fabulous cat lady I've ever seen, but why is she kind of giving RuPaul? Tomorrow I have some big plans. I'm gonna try to incorporate a background and bring this whole drawing to life, but I'll see you tomorrow. Alright you guys, it's about 7:30 in the morning. I'm gonna try to finish this drawing, hopefully a little bit fresher than I was last night. I also had to be sure to visit my own little good luck charm. This is Diva, and I was hoping that her blessing could help me finish this drawing this morning. I want to add a background and try to put her in a little bit of a sense of place. I found this book at the thrift store the other day, and I thought I might be able to find some inspiration for a background for her here. So diving into this background, I'm starting with a loose sketch in Micron pen. I really want to give this character a sense of place, put her into a world that she lives in and belongs in, and make it so that her and her little kitties are not just floating in space anymore. I thought it would be fun, since she is quite a vibrant diva, to set her against this black and white background so that she's this pop of color, like a burst of flavor in an otherwise dull world. Now that's a little bit cliche, but you know what? Sometimes we are allowed to embrace cliches. So I'm just filling in the background with alcohol markers, trying to build up the values and make the background have some logical sense. I do want to keep it really loose. I'm trying to embrace those sketchy qualities. Again, this drawing is filled with imperfections, so let's make those imperfections beautiful. At least that's kind of my thought process. As I'm filling out this drawing, I'm starting to feel like she's getting lost. I don't really love how I handled the edges of this paper. It just kind of looks muddy, and I didn't approach it with very much intention. So I'm kind of taking a big risk here. I'm going to be using white acrylic paint and trying to box in the background and try to give the drawing a frame and a little bit of a sense of polish. As I'm filling in this white border, should I be using multiple brush sizes? Probably yes. Is that what I'm gonna do? Absolutely not. I just do not have time for that, and that's one of the reasons why I'm more of a drawer than a painter. I don't want to constantly be reaching into my supply box to get different size brushes. I draw with my heart, and that is just not what my heart wants. But after boxing in this drawing and giving it a little bit more structure, it was a scary thing to do, but I'm really glad that I did it. Before, it felt like the figure was really getting lost in the background, and now I feel like she's stepping out of the frame. To me, this sort of geometric, harshly defined background, in contrast to her dynamic movement and all of the little cute kitties, it kind of makes this drawing pop. And honestly, now that I'm looking at it, I feel like this background makes the drawing. But now it's time for some critiques. So I'm going to do my best to keep this drawing in frame while I talk about my thoughts. And let's start with the negatives. The first negative is that her face got kind of muddy. Now, in my opinion, the face should be one of the most detailed portions of the drawing. It's just where your eye lands and it draws a lot of focus. Unfortunately, when I'm drawing, it's the furthest away from me, so I just really struggle at this scale to get the types of details that I want. And I was making a lot of incorrect marks, which is unfortunate. I also think the background worked out in the end, but I do wish I approached it with more intention from the beginning. It's just a little bit muddy in those margins. It kind of looks like I just smudged all over the edges. Now for the positives. I know I just said the background was a negative, but I also think it's one of the strengths of this drawing. I have mentioned in my last video that I wanted to approach backgrounds with more intention and give my characters a sense of place. And I really think this little alleyway adds a lot to this character. Another thing that I'm happy with is this pose. I was just completely drawing from imagination. I think using those loose gesture lines gave her a really dynamic sense of movement. And one other thing is that last week I had talked about wanting to be more intentional with my clothing design, and I feel like this leopard print and sort of patent leather purple thigh-high pumps. They really give this character a distinctive style, so I'm happy with that this week. Overall, this was a really fun and experimental little sketch. I feel like I learned a lot, and in that way, she is a success. Overall, I'm giving her 6 out of 10 pussycats. She is a very distinctive lady, and a distinctive lady does need a distinctive name. I think I'm going to affectionately call her Madame Le Poussé, but please let me know what you think her name should be as well. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching this week. As a reminder, my goal for this series is for it to be very interactive. If there's anything you want me to include in next week's sketch, be sure to let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to subscribe so that you can see what we draw next week. I can't wait to see you then. But that's all for now. Mwah.